3 o'clock. It's time to start. Flatrock Poetry Open Mic is in session. Okay, I've got several people that signed up, but I'm going to read a poem first, and you guys get to choose which poem.
Yeah. Be careful what you ask for.
This is true. Okay, I've got Lost and Found in Color, and of Islands and Planets, and Precious as Bees.
What's the third one again?
Precious as Bees. Like that one?
Let's do that. Okay.
You got it. Okay. Love is an art form I'm learning with honey hands. The blue leaves of night unfold inside my mind, but confusion remains like a vice below. Which yet retains its magic, wonder, somehow despite the world, right? I'm sorry, this is very small. From whence the music comes, the memories, ability to relate to common sufferings around the planet and here at home. Home is where the heart is. Love is an art form, a shape among shapes of you, moods and blues, hands among you. I'm learning with honey hands. Under a world, within, among a world, realities that go off in a second. Into beauty or violence. These days are precious as bees, I say, as the very words between us, honey. Thank you. Okay, let me get the first person. Also, there is at 6 p.m. tonight, from 6 p.m. to 9, at Casa Azafran, there is a Nolensville Pike Community Art Exhibition with 7 artists and 6 musicians. And it's free, and there's food, and there's coffee, and everything. So it's really fun. All right, our first poet today is the amazing Robert Stone.
Mentioned my name recently, and he used amazing too. I brought 2 poems. They're not new. They turned up on kind of what I was reading on Facebook yesterday, maybe just today, about somebody who had fallen. And I said to myself, well, I've written a couple of poems about falling and being dizzy and so forth and so on. So I looked them up. This first one is from 7 years ago, and it's called When All Was Sure, a sonnet for my foot about aging. My foot, when younger, merely went its ways, not much concerned with possibilities, and daily trips and stumbles did not faze its confidence to do whatso it pleased. To take the stairs by skipping each odd rung was such a simple sort of taking flight, and minor jars that body joinings sprung were all ignored when gazing from the height. To hold the railing now is wisdom's choice, and feeling every foothold till secure is constant song of aging's vexing voice that drowns the youthful tunes when all was sure. Now older, foot, your messages are faint, and your responses mingled with complaint. This one's called Still Worth the Chase, a sonnet reminding the poet to pay better attention. I slipped and fell into familiar air, and downward brushed against the folding rack, and clothes and cloths quite dry were waiting there, like me, oblivious to coming whack. I slid and failed to stop before the crunch, and sideways touched too many twinging stings, and good and bad from past arose with punch, like me, forgetting all that hope still sings. I slowed and foiled mishaps that were not swift, and upward moved with seeming grace and charm, and true and false seemed same, but far adrift, like me, unsure if doubt should cause alarm. Yet some encounters still are worth the chance, being death's request for a final dance. Thank you.
Right, I'm new with mics. Thank you so much, Robert. That was beautiful. Next we have Olivia Pridemore. Yay! Welcome.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here today. My name is Olivia. I'm actually the managing editor of Silver Needle Press, and over there is our art director. We just like to come around and support all of the local writing and artistic events going on. So it's really good to be here today. I just have a couple of short poems I'm going to share with you today. The first one is called Nefertarian. I'm really inspired a lot by mythology and the poetry I write. Nefertarian. When I saw our limbs hanging like denatured cells in the neutronic cosmos, I prayed for full-like amnesia. 1. Purge the gaping chest cavity. 2. Seal with canopic jars, bleeding organs, still spewing forth my late ecstasy. Ceremony of the mouth. Touch frond to cheek, spore to eye, and bind body with cartilage cage. This next poem I have for you. Thanks. Is called Us, Act 1, and I mirrored this poem in the structure of a play. You know, it's hard sometimes when you're doing a reading because we take such care to craft our poems, and they're very visually impacting, and that's not something you can really translate. But I really wanted to juxtapose the difference between emotional space and physical space in relationships. So here is Us, Act 1. To him, homogeny tastes like cigarettes, senna on the tongue, honey to the lung. Me, why do you smoke? Him, addiction is quixotic. Our bodies teeter on the brink of equilibrium. Every action met with equal and opposite reaction. Me, why won't you marry me? Him, deprivation is quixotic. Sometimes his wetness between my thighs feels like a cold reminder. Me, proximity is quixotic. And I'm just going to go grab my folder really quickly because you can't read footnotes on the book. This last one is called One-chan. My brother, who is my best friend, he's in Japan right now. And so I write a lot about body and the way body image relates to identity. And eating disorders are something that runs in my family. So I really wanted to use the juxtaposition of Eastern and Western culture of tradition and individuality to show how these body images impact our identity. One-chan. I lost a game of shogi in your dishonor. Forgive me for never telling you about the sting of bile or the seduction of funhouse mirrors. There is no character in hiragana, katakana, or kanji to mimic the sound of purification. Tosan eyes your baggy trousers with pride, but I grow to resent the palate-cleansing properties of miso. Why didn't I mention the veneers or the constipation? Kachan will weep to learn that her children have written the same story. 1. I remember the first time you bested me in a match. I was afraid that you would win, but equally afraid that you wouldn't. You cried ote through beaming lips. Thank you for not feigning humility, as I was unable to conceal my hatred for you in that moment. 2. The summer I turned 18, I would steal away to Redbox and smuggle home R-rated movies stuffed in my jacket. We split headphones so we could hear authority creeping up the stairs. 3. Our trip to Kyoto made the day-to-day seem profane. In my mind's eye, I can still see you standing there amidst the ruins of Honmaru, veiled in the shade of topiary pines. I have no memory of your voice. Neither of us would speak. 4. In our senior year, you entered an amateur manga competition just for the $50 gift card. Over dinner, you told me that scraps from yatai cards could put even world-renowned Anglo-Asian cuisine to shame. I didn't believe you until I saw the sunset over Fukuoka City and the past emerge from alleyways and abandoned parking lots. 5. I always had better handwriting than you. Miss Kirk chided your crooked sevens and your jagged W's, but no matter how much I practice my characters, I am no match for your steady hand. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Olivia. The tension in your poem is so well wrought, and the imagery is beautiful. Thank you. Next, we have Sandy Coomer. Yay!
Just trying to get this a little higher, but oh, there you go. Yeah. So this is my first time at Flatrock for the poetry. Thank you, Amy, for inviting me and telling me about it. So I'm going to read a couple poems. Been writing some letter poems to a specific person from my past, or it could be a conglomeration of a couple of people. And there's also a setting involved in this that speak to the relationship of the speaker, poet, and the other person. So this is called Letter to Andrew from Flagstaff. Flagstaff, Arizona is a dark sky city. So the thing that I'm trying to bring out is what is darkness in a relationship. So Letter to Andrew from Flagstaff. You haven't seen stars until you stand under true dark skies and watch a billion needles of light prick the black. I gape at the desert's rim and feel like I'm floating into space. My body a fragment of friction and dust. I think of you years ago in that damp basement where we drank warm beer and danced with people we said we didn't like. I watched you kiss a girl, your mouth on hers, your eyes on mine, and still I remember how the hot center of my belly burned, how the white stars behind my eyes flashed like supernovas. It was a game, you said, like so many others in the years that followed, ones that focused a narrow light on our shadowy love. I lie on my back in the sleeping bag and count shooting stars, a fizzle and flash, then gone. If you were here, would you lean your face to the night, point to Venus, Mars, Saturn's spinning moons? Would you trace the constellations, track them till they fade in morning's pale glow? I know the rules about letting go. How loneliness is a plate of darkness that must be consumed. I know this arc of horizon is a rant of what could have been but wasn't, a celestial blast too wide to grasp. It's the blackest space I've known, Andrew, and with it, a silence that seeps into my skin like a memory I can't see through. I know I shouldn't miss you, but I do. write a lot about faith. I'm really interested in what people believe in, whether it's a spiritual power or even things like palm reading or the horoscopes and things like that. So this is a poem about faith. I should say also that the inspiration behind this poem was an article I read online about people that see Jesus in their food. So this is called Eucharist. I study the burnt side of potato chip that depicts the face of Jesus in its dark edges. I've heard of God spreading the love in pancakes and quesadillas, popping a grin among flour and oil, but a mass-produced junk food snack doesn't seem like the best venue for the Savior. I'd rather see Jesus in the dimpled marble of a labyrinth in Chartres, 11 rings of meditation and mirth, or hear him in the clear soprano of a boys' choir, the voices not yet tuned with the longing of manhood. I want my Jesus to be pure, with no hydrogenated oils, caramel color, or yeast extract. But this potato chip Jesus seems genuine. I lay it on the counter and wait for it to speak wisdom, like the orange that, when split, confides the crucifixion, like the pierogi that sold on eBay for $1,000 with a face that spoke of sacrifice and suffering. I want authentic doctrine. I want the cross and the foundation and the rock. I want everything: the orange, the pierogi, the bass, the tenor, the path through the labyrinth and out again, the bread and the anointing oil, the burnt smile and the eyes. So hollow, so broken, I might mistake them for my own.
Sandra, that was so powerful and beautiful. Thank you so much. Now we have Jess Hess. Hey.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm a singer. I work with mics sometimes, in particular. All right. Hi, my name's Jess Hess. My parents did condemn me to a life of poetry after naming me that. Yeah. And so now I'm here. I'm also a singer-songwriter in Nashville and a server. And yeah, I'm going to read you a couple of poems. The first one's quite short. The next one is a little bit longer. All right. This first one's called When I Use My Lover's Shower. After forgetting to pack my own, I'll reach for the soap, solid in the caddy. I do not mind the thought of his body rubbing down the glycerin before I scrub myself in those places that he scrubs me. What I mind is my secret, trying not to push the bar too hard against my bumping skin, hoping he won't notice the thinning. This one's called Until It's Stuck. Maybe it's in these times when my eyes are burnt from watching mindless videos. I block them out with the scattered chatter between my ears. Squirrels live inside my brain. They are digging holes for their springtime breakfast to lie in, little graves. Maybe some of them will sprout into maples. Maybe it's in these times when my body is shaking, my insistence to keep the gas bill low, or my weed habit, or my empty stomach. My hands are cold and I wonder, the lady bird eater, the salad with no dressinger, who I woefully make eye contact with as I hand her husband his fried chicken and yazoo. I ask her if she wants another vodka. She nods. Does she know me? Maybe it's in these times when I'm ramen broke and sick of slurping noodles that I point my wilting finger towards my managers, my immune system, my debt, ultimately my mother, because my father is dead and thus immune. Maybe it's in these times that my finger is circling, like attached to a cog, like a horse at the end of a merry-go-round, and I'm nauseated from all the spinning when I collapse into a pile of smoke and sour water, waking the next day, rolling in my bed, reaching for the glass half something I left in its own puddle on the table. I'll rise only when I can't stand the lying anymore. Trying always to remember the drive home with my throat pressing in on itself, sand to sand. I turn to look in the bathroom mirror, where I'll pull at the skin under my eyes, check the color of my lips, chant, I am glad to be here, over and over. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was so fabulous and moving. That I forgot my pad. Okay. Now, Henry L. Jones.
Henry L. Jones.
Yay!
A little bit higher. Perfect. Oh yeah, that works. The rain didn't stop us from coming today, did it? This first poem is called The Soul. Sometimes the soul grows older than the flesh, but there are times when the soul can't age, when soul reflects as a child, and forwards still yet a child, dwindling through time, yet dying inside. How sad for so many children to die when the flesh is still old. I don't like this title. You ever, for the poets, you've written something and then you pull it out after years and like, whoa, that title, I didn't know where I was going with it. The title is From Emotionalism to Realism. Too heavy. And because when I read the poem, I was like, I gotta change the title, but it's a working title. We strengthen the heart by saying the words that come from within our souls, and weaken ourselves by not telling those words to others. This has no title. On winds they came, drifting tears with sails, entering docks of compassion. Friends made lovers, strangers to the eyes, whispers to the lips. Now they hide behind doors of pillow lovers, with Venetian blinds drenched in years, separated by the fear of simply living. Pacify the passion, give it love for once, have it suckle the seduction and keep a warm relief hidden, yet that hiddenness brings about a coldness which leaves you alone. Petals to the wind, gone like a lover's kiss, tender and moist, the call of lust, shallow voice from within that whispers my name at night, pulls my arms inward to hold and only hold the last thing left to love, to make me feel real and human. Thank you.
I'm getting better at it. This is my first time playing with it. Thank you, Henry. That was sensual and delightful. Appreciate it. Now, if Dana is ready, or Cara, would you like to read? Would you like to read? Okay, cool. And then we'll have our feature poet, Dana Malone. Okay.
Sorry for my
my shaky voice. I'm really nervous. This is called Lonely Friendly Giant. I want to make a TV show. It'll be about a giant who's made of recycled material and trash. Each episode, the giant lays in her bed, swallowing the bottomless gulf of emptiness. The emptiness with a voice that shows how to properly self-destruct. The intro song will be up and cheery with a bass that reminds you your heart is still beating. She'll dream about the day she might be like the people who created her. On the season finale, there'll be everyone yelling at the giant, asking her why she is the way she is, trash that doesn't know how to act. Every garbage bag filled with the words you said, saved because that's all she has become. The hatred that poured from your heart onto her skin is a sting to remind her that she is no one. The giant will be friendly to all, but not all will be friendly to her. While drowning her sorrows away from reality, the flashbacks will take over. A mother who beats her because the mother was hurt by another. A string of men who just used her and left her, much like the man she knew as father. She won't have a name because she doesn't know who she is. She won't have a heart because she was never taught how to feel. Her eyes will carry the want for love, but the fear of everything. Don't touch her. You see, each person that touches her, she lets close. Each person she lets close grabs a gun of disappointment, takes her aim, and blows her away to the deep bellows of a rabbit hole she so desperately calls her way out of. You won't know, though, because that lonely, friendly giant will just smile the pain away. The care she should have for herself has always been projected onto others. As one day she will sit in that theater for one, watch her life story on the screen, soaking in the details she wishes to reminisce and regret. With the credits rolling, that giant of threats, hate, abuse, fear, unwanting, worthlessness, recycled material and trash, will welcome that being in a grim black hat into her body. Take me away, she will say. Let me hurt no more. I'm all yours. That will be the season finale. That will be her finale. I have another one. It doesn't have a title. I'm sorry. Earth-shattering breakthroughs, euphoric feeling like no other, marked by the movies as picture perfect. That's all this is supposed to go with this, right? How can I feel you if I don't know me? I don't know how to do this when I've been selling my body so cheap. First ever boyfriend showed me how to skate on my skin, smoothly moving blades through the layer of ice I've built. This is how you truly hate yourself. Declutter the blood from your body so you can bring in the boxes of painful memories, unpack and decorate my mind's ugliest of moments and feelings. Poison was forced in my body at the age of 12 by a family member who claimed she loved me. But at 18, I drank the poison without fear and embraced the tears. Mom was happy for once I started to live. Sure, let's call it that. When each party I felt like a refugee, scared and alone in a place I knew not as my home. Okay, I lived. Absolutely, I lived. That's why every night each new friend I slid on my skin got deeper. I was making sure that, unfortunately, at least I'm alive. So forgive, please, I'm not good at this kind of thing. Don't worry, I'll definitely harm me over hurting you. I've closed off human emotion, but it's starting to reopen. I'm sorry, we're going out of business. Don't come in my store and take all my soul and tell me you liked it. I was trying to end all this. Why do I want to talk to you, show you all, give you all when I've been hurt by all? First love planted the seeds of manipulation, and I was his. His without say or action, never allowed to leave his side. Way older me, he was my guide. Like his music, he kept me low, reminding me that I've reached the jackpot with him, and feeling was easily avoided with him. Just shut up and listen, that was my job. But he was a man and me a woman. I loved him truly. Completely toxic for one another, my dad's friend. Maybe I was just an easy little girl to him. But to me, he was my winter, fall, spring, and summer. Gorgeous like no other I've seen before. Love does not make you blind. It cuts all senses. Like my sense of touch when he would reach for me to find an empty heart with lips. My sense of hearing every time he threw his insecurities onto me, like the major out-of-this-league man he claimed to be. Every time I open my heart, it's a roller coaster that just goes down. I get angry and sad, even with a smile. It really isn't you, it's me. There's just so much ice to scrape off. I will disappoint you. You will start to hate me. Your skin will cover in bite marks because I don't know how else to be remembered by you. $22.87 is what the cashier says to me. Every dollar and penny will go to drowning my thoughts. My plan of using you to block my thoughts backfired. All I think about is pressing the puzzle piece in, and I'm scared that it'll fit.
Cara, that was so strong and empowering and beautiful, and I love your images and metaphors. And do you know what magic realism is? Okay, I will talk after. It's kind of a Latin American thing where they use symbols and metaphors to talk about all sorts of things they couldn't talk about really. So it's really cool. Okay. All right, this one sort of goes with yours. Of planets and islands, is Puerto Rico still in the dark? What's it like to be a territory, not a state? Ask Washington, D.C. People needing ice, electricity for their medical machines, at the very least, cut off from further aid? It took you so long to finally say it. From disparate sources, you were able to spit out the truth. You are moved by the sea, listening to waves upon your soul, trash from our lives waiting to be picked up on the shore of me in my depths. Overwhelming, but the shells mixed in make all the difference. See, the moon pulled us all here on our own, mothership to mothership of Earth. Now we've trashed it up. You don't give in or up, but get to the source of the moon, the waves, while we're all cleaning it all up. The soothing sounds of crashing on the sand once more, not trash. The oldest of shells we leave behind for children and the story to be told. We move into the waves now and know the kindnesses of the earth and the moon in sync. We move with the waves like hula dancers, waving and moving to the oldest rhythms we can find. Moments of flower ephemera, solid petals of boldest reds, soft pinks of poetry, white flower crowns to the green stems, but for a moment they are us and the bees. Photograph them now, cherish evermore. Is all of Puerto Rico in the dark? Is it an object unworthy of citizens, worthy of rights? I was an object, as ephemeral as flowers, cherished as that, nurtured only among your lines. I nurtured the flowers, watering each, tending toward health. Do not neglect. Across the board. I am an artifact collecting shells along the shore of my soul. Heaven preserve, and we fight for Puerto Rico, rich port, an object for retaining resources, rum, sugar fruit. If some of us are only objects to be prized and then ultimately rejected, do we not rush to save, to preserve, knowing I am not an object? Maybe I once was. Going forward to preserve the best in life, the earth and its varied and wonderful people. It's scamming people, freaking people scamming for a buck, power over others, enough. I prize the truth among all things. We nurtured the best among us. We did not forget. It took you so long to say it. You are moved by the moon, the planets. Do not deny your immortality. The earth is a planet, not an object. Puerto Rico is an island, you say. It took you such a short time to say that. Things are much deeper than you let on, sir. We do not forget Mother Earth, ultimately. It's a new one. I'm still kind of working on it. Dana, are you ready? Cool. Good time. Dana is an amazing poet and dear friend, and she's fabulous, so please enjoy Dana. Malone.
In my hometown in upstate South Carolina, there is a funeral home called Robinson Funeral Home in Easley, South Carolina, and they have a Starbucks inside the funeral home, and Stephen Colbert, who's from Charleston, South Carolina, tells a joke about funerals occurring and amidst, lattes and steamed coffee being prepared. It's quite funny. So check that out. I'm pleased to be in community with you all today and in so many other places in our town. And I'll start with a poem that was published in an anthology called Backyards and Boulevards, which was supported by the Porch Writers Collective, among other funding agencies, and Sandy was one of the editors. So I'm thankful to you for choosing this little poem about my backyard. And the visual when I went to craft it for the anthology was the bus signs where they indicate the route briefly. It's called Buena Vista Heights, Jefferson Street, Music Row, Nolensville Pike, East Nashville, all Nashville. In my backyard, children squeal at recess, braided hair, pleated skirts, snap fresh khakis. Before I go out, a shower with water through underground pipes laid by slaves. Bobby in the apartment above me teaching granddaughter what Feliz Navidad means, and next door, Sonny, the drag king, keyboard singing. Then Ed Temple Boulevard to Tennessee State, where Olympic champions made do by running through the halls, turning school desks into hurdles around the bend to Jefferson Street, passing all that jazz that used to waft from the new era clubs, now history. Then #1 banners on Music Row, basements and 5 spots east. Then past the home of musictrue.org, toward and down the long streets of language, hello in Spanish, Kurdish, Arabic, dozens of others on the paths of poetry and moving billboards. Everywhere I go, a beautiful view or something that was or wants to be. On these back roads, corridors, arteries, all of it, something about us, all of us rounding home, Coach saying everywhere, as he says on the third base, in my backyard, keep going, keep going, keep going. And I'll have a little talk about Jesus too, I guess, at Sandy. I was trying to decide how to select these pieces finally. And one of the things that I am privileged to do in this town is coordinate a program called Poetry on Demand for the Porch Writers Collective. And we collaborate with WPLN, the public radio affiliate here, to generate content for a podcast called Versify. And we got support from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting for it. And so we're really pleased that that helped us put poets to work. We pay our poets to write these poems. And this was probably the turning point for me as a writing poet. And it's featured on a Versify episode. It's called Homily Delivered in the Church of the New Territory upon the Death of a Grandmother. And it's now part of a libretto for a Universalist oratorio. So this would be a mezzo-soprano aria with chorus. And the epigraph reads, "What you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others." Pericles. And this is my friend Allie's story in poem. In pursuit of Jesus, I bent my ear to the waistband of my grandmother's skirt, went to the Jesuit school with the highest tuition. Jesus was not there. I never found him anywhere. I was always told he was only begotten, sacrificial, which is not how he showed up in my dream when I was 9 and sent to the tall white bed on the first measure of the Perry Mason theme song. By unanimous democracy, the Galileans refused to let me in. Jesus, apprentice carpenter, crafted a square boat and cast me. God was not in the nightmare, was not wide enough to take it. Such sacrilege. A God confined to an hour and a half on Sunday will embarrass you come Wednesday afternoon. Such revenge. With an MBA from Chicago, God made me an elephant, a monkey brain-eating traitor, the only female in a sea of Solomon brothers. I never thought I was, neither have nor have not, the biggest deal of my life, and what I did not know to do, dripping in jewelry in San Paulo when people were killing for tennis shoes, dodging Escobars in Bogota under siege, standing in the Middle Ages of Paris, turning heads like an unexpected idol, living in Thailand during a coup I did not notice, was to snap my strand of rosary pearls. God is the God of granddaughters beaten out of taxis and the grandmothers who dare to beat their granddaughters in public, and the granddaughters sent to bed who miss Perry Mason. God is the God of looms. God is baloney layered onto action and inaction. God is a terrifying thing, a tall thing, a 5 feet 10 plus 4 inches of Versace pumps thing. God is a red-haired thing. God rides the escalator down the Hong Kong hills. God is 10 seasons of Perry Mason. God is I weaving myself into my daughter whose boyfriend dumped her in a text message. Jesus is snot on my merino wool cardigan as my daughter, my golden dragon, cries and thinks she will never love again. Jesus, Son of God, is no more special than Sarah, the Episcopal priest who delivered her grandmother's eulogy. Jesus is no more begotten than any of us. Jesus is eel, is skin and bone and grease, an excruciating chew that does not wash down with wine. That's some serious communion. But don't ever try to eat eel when you're at a company dinner. Heads up. So this is I feebly send these poems into Rattle for Poets Respond, but it at least keeps me writing. This is when I wrote about an event in Nashville. Lay meditation on the implosion of the Lifeway Christian building downtown Nashville. There will be kings and kingdoms that passed, new kingdoms come, perhaps, or maybe just adequate housing for a bulging populace, or the questions. Would we have won if the running back had not torn his ACL? Or if we just had an extra week to rest? Does practice make a perfect working of salvation? Who ran off with a tape measure? A walk through the ark encounter is cubits of inconsistency. 6,000 years for Christians, and no one can agree on the wages of sin. Death? Fire? What agony? Suits? Did everything fit into 6 millennia in a football field, tall as the tallest stadium and domed? Sunday morning quarterbacking won't explain it. Wishful thinking that next week, minute, tomorrow after, that anyone will find always next year a salvo for wounds or sin-sick hearts. One decision, indiscretion, last string, I swear it, that never comes, a fall in the middle of a sunny morning. And did you think so much white smoke there would be? How many acres of vibration? And who knew the elevator would lag behind in falling? O thou, great presser of the demo button, contracted deity of dynamite, tell me, have you an extra loaf for all of us left behind? You foretold and prepared for the chosen day, ready to reign in victory, stab the emblematic and fresh earth. Where did the cross end up? Is it as much rubble and hint of light as we? I'll lighten up in a minute, but first, this is for another Charleston poem, is what I originally called it. But in this body of libretto, which is working title, Everyone Holy, Everything Begotten. This is a lacrimosa, I suppose. Charleston, Mother Emanuel, Walter Scott. Left alone to scream in language without vowel, only the guttural clicking of tongue against teeth, rolling R's at the backs of minds, blurring breaking news, wars, filthy lucre, shots in the backs of black men, resonant bone of hurricane and house of worship, bullets riddling Charleston, death cold and drenching, the angel oak bitter and bleeding, sorrow breaking on the October battery. This is where the sonnet ends, in a wreck at the four corners of law. That was when I had to write. I was at the federal courthouse. I took my cousin to file property tax papers when they were seating the jury for Dylan Roof's trial. And then while I was there, they seated the jury for the police officer who killed Walter Scott. So it was just kind of, sometimes you have to write to endure. I think I'll read. So this is a poem on demand I wrote for a Vanderbilt student. I'll just read it. Ashley Collins is her name. And the title ends with says. When asked, why do you want to be a horror fiction writer? She says, it's why I had to see it on the screen. The rant that made Kathy Bates axe the foot of Jack Nicholson. What a reader, rabid for her own way, in no way thinks it's twisted to kidnap her favorite author, demand a rewrite. As for me, I won't say much out loud, but watch for what I do with horror on the page. Picture it, life that lauds the antagonist without as much emphasis on what the protagonist thinks about being stuck in the woods. Not predictable as a riff from a sax on Bill Street, twangy chord from Music Row, the wanting to write and revise the world I create as if keeping a limb depended on it. That's a new way to see that movie. Where Kathy chops off Misery, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
James Collins, right there.
Yes. Let's see. So I did this poem on demand for a homeless man. We had language issues, so I was asking him in Spanish, how do you say that? Or, slow down, let's give each other time to express what we need to express. So I'll say that, and I'll also say that I asked 3 people to translate in Spanish some of these phrases in here, which I definitely sound as though I came from Appalachia. I did, and it kind of sounds that way. So when we took Spanish in my hometown, you know, we used the drawl. So, como estas usted, you know, which doesn't really do you any favors to speak with a native speaker. But I asked three speakers, one from Puerto Rico, one from Colombia, and one from a Central American country, I forget which one, to share that with me. So I'm not, you know, the point is, I tried. And this is called Papeles para Edgar Perez, Papers for Edgar Perez. I am gente sin papeles, people without papers. The system documents me in failures, in felonies and failures to report. I document myself with lists of drugs used and sold, cocaine, heroin, pills, marijuana, LSD, toss of mushrooms, and always alcohol. With friends from home I do not see, friends killed, friends troubled, friends disappeared, and always absent. I count by migratory patterns, homeless for 1 year, drug-free for 2, 33 years from 1982. When I came here illegal as street drugs, my life marked by wrong work, more money, all of it, my life in states. Alabama, a state. Carolina, 2 states in 1. Detroit, a state, yes, a state. Georgia, a state. Texas, a state on the border. My life, a borderline. Hometown, a port state in Mexico. States for a city in Carolina. And home with Saratoga, Raleigh, and Kingston with Chef and Farmer, a restaurant. Prison, a state. Overnight jail, holding for a state. Now my church, against a state that might deport me. Today, a state behind McDonald's at Calvary Street and Peace. Sometimes hard work for less money comes, sometimes doesn't. Tienes papeles, I have papers. My heart is a ream, documenting my wish a long time. Me gustaría que todos fueran una persona, that everybody be one person. Collective, a singular. Fear, a continent. Uncertainty, a hemisphere. The minister at my bedside after knee surgery, a shield. The sky over all of us, hope and irony. The joy despite everything. The necessary state without walls. So I said online that it's not lost on me, about one more or maybe 2, that today would have been the 78th birthday of a drummer named Levon Helm. And Levon was a part of a band simply called The Band, and they kind of started out as Bob Dylan's backup band. And so I did some crazy things to cope with some situations even in my childhood, but one of the ones that I consider fairly productive and an okay thing to have is that I would hide out in La La Land and make up stories. And Levon, if you look at footage of him from Woodstock, he looks like the illustration of Johnny Appleseed, which was in a book that I read as a child. And so I just imagine, I thought he was Johnny Appleseed, a 4-year-old watching footage of Woodstock might think that. So I would march around my basement with a Revereware pot on my head, turned backwards with the handle, away from me, and pretend I was talking with him, or Levon Helm, or that he was listening to my stories. So, and I had the privilege of seeing him at Bonnaroo and twice at the Ryman before he died. So, I'm going to read this one. And I've kind of developed a new form because I just did. It's organized around quotes of his, and I have pictures of him that are friends with where he kind of, was pretty in your face sometimes. So I have this picture of him like this coming over his drum set. And so this is my argument with him. I don't know who won, but it's called Riding the Crash Cymbal. And the quote is this: "Those bad times are important. They give you a chance to practice, listen, take stock, have a life, get your feet back on the ground, and maybe you'll live to tell the story." Yes, Levon, bad times are important, but they still thunder like a bass drum of death, and fear resonates the most during pre-dawn hours, punctuating my thoughts with intermittent jolts and shivers reminiscent of detox wards. And sometimes, Levon, no matter how hard you practice, you're left abandoned on the stage, feeling as though you'll never hit the downbeat spot on, and no one will want to play with you again. Listen, Levon, sometimes there is no consolation, no rescue from the reverberating backbeats between love letters wedged into cards full of quotes from Proust or sketches of lovers under a shared umbrella. Nothing to amend the swords from the kit, nothing to amend the wounds from the kit of swords, slashing the bed sheets, each blow a dissonant scream of a chorus singing O Fortuna from Carmina Burana. And sometimes, Levon, there is no voice emerging from the Catskill pines of your former home to soothe you, because the pines have been ransacked with radiation, stripping the gritty comfort. Sometimes, Levon, you do not see that you have a life on your first attempt to take stock. Do not see that your house has been a melody, that there is an unbreakable bond dotting the acoustic ceiling, that you have a story you'll live to tell. When the pinprick stars punctuate your dissociated state before a seizure, like a wheel on fire, burning down the house that used to make you smile. Maybe this is a little lighthearted. I wrote this poem for Deb Paquette, who is a chef here in town. Does she own the Cakewalk? And she owns Etch downtown and a restaurant called Etc. But she is a red-haired, not the red-haired woman who appeared earlier in the poem, but she, like everything always on all her menus, there's something that involved beets. So she told me the story of her life organized around this one root vegetable menu, the beet, the undeniable for Deb Paquette. Did you think beets as the knee-high South Georgia you of 15 extra pounds because you had time for them, time to sit down until you ate every bite, the one vegetable set before you with a "you'd better eat everything," but your parents didn't mind if you didn't, would be that beet pickled dole to you, that the beet nibbled in, now the dirty vegetable begging for hot sauce and blackberry? The beet, Deb, the beet. That when you say blanket, it's a verb for what you do for beets. Cover them with the dust of pecans, that the beets would become what they know you by, that beet would be the tease. Take them to bed singing, "Let's get it on," or to the ER, not bleeding, just the beet singing, "Hello, it's me." That beet and heat would be the hit, the way beet lends to Tabasco, walnut, maple syrup, earth nest, that beet and berries would pizzazz them, spiced cranberries join in the soap, be the spunk of heavenly heat, the never quick enough lift of fork to mouth. That beet would be the pulse of your Beat would be the pulse of your beating mother heart, the edge of everything, the root of happy, beat of memory, thinking about your boys, teased for eating beets, hidden in their lunch boxes, how they get on without you sometimes, with canned beets. The beat again, blushing your cheeks and lips, Aphrodite tease, take me home, catch every light green, the roasted warm plate dotted with sauces ringing red love until you get home again. Did you know beat would be the sugar, root, everything? That beat would be the ink of you, the downbeat before the doors open and the diners ask what the specials are. Did you know this beat read poem about you sitting there in the book of stories is a beta, meaning about a root, a tug, the very earth, that as long as there's dirt, your life, this poem doesn't end? So if you eat beets and you know, use the bathroom in due order, it's not blood, it's beets. You learn something every day.
Give it up for Dana. Oh my gosh, you're brilliant, brilliant. And I love your characters, your metaphors, everything. You're welcome. I have one poem, and then we'll see if anyone else wants to read something. This is one that is from, I'm a poet on demand too with Dana, so this is one I wrote at the Holy Festival where they throw chalk colors at each other and ended up totally green and pink and everything at the end of the day, so it was really fun. Okay, this is about a gentleman that I interviewed and his wife. Lost and found in color. You snapped my photograph. It was a candid shot. What you captured, my face full of pigment from the Holy Festival of Colors. It became my favorite photo ever taken. Ran in the paper the next day, evidence of life, family, friends, celebration days. I've lived in the USA for 10 years, learning how to be a great doctor. I'm from Western India where the festivals are regular, beautiful, connecting everyone again, gathering together on the flat rooftops of India at night, celebrating light, dancing for days into the wee hours of the morning. My wife is a trained dancer and loves to dance. We were introduced in India in 2010. We had to wait a long time to get married. She loves the Festival of Colors so much, misses them so much from before home. This is our first Holy Festival in the U.S., together since we became married. It is such a special time for us to be part of our culture, community, colors of love. You throw colors at each other until you can't even recognize each other. It makes me feel rooted in my culture, catching up with my friends, family, and everyone, meeting new people. There's so many festivals back in India. Narwadi means 9 nights of dancing. Here they spread it over 3 weekends. Diwali is a festival of lights in autumn. In January, there's a kite festival where you see millions of kites in the sky. I was able to return to India for my first kite festival in 10 years. These lovely festivals are a way to connect with my heritage, to feel less isolated in this world. I'm happy to be with my wife on this day of illumination. You snapped my photograph. I was unaware you were taking it at the time. Now it's my favorite photo. My face was so full of color you couldn't recognize me. I disappeared into the colors until my face was color itself. I'm dancing with my lovely wife. I'm throwing colors at the sky, at my wife, at you. We dance and dance until we float. On this festival day, we become holy as color itself. All life becomes color, and I submerge into the wonder that is my culture. Welcome, dance, sing, lose yourself for a time. We welcome you to our holy festival, our history, our love for life itself. Love is among the colors in your face. I have lost myself in you. We are all lost. We have found each other and lost ourselves. We have become one life. We have become found. We are the colors. Thank you.
It's a very special experience. I really love working in the community on Poetry on Demand because there are just so many stories, people coming up. Anyone else want to read? Anyone? Cara? You got another one? You do? Okay, one, two. Yes, and afterwards we want to take a group picture if you guys are into that. Uh-huh. Welcome, Cara. You're doing great.
I promise this time I'll be less shaky. I'll try my best. This is called Paper Cut Love. Your love was like a paper cut I didn't know the strength of. The memory placed on my heart never knew the pain you could inflict on me. You slid through my bare, oh too smoothly, left your mark there. Such a small cut. Why does it hurt so much? Maybe I grew too attached is the issue. I tie my shoes to people like you. That way when you leave me, the pain from tripping and falling on my face makes me forget all the abandonment. Another tally mark to put onto my heart. Once again, I have loved and lost. Whoever made that stupid quote of, "It's better to not love," is a masochistic asshole. Your paper. Why do you lash out like that? I came to you because I thought I needed you, wanted you, wrote my emotions onto you to let you know you were the only one I wanted to see all of me. My little piece of history I had to leave. I know it was over when I reached in that mailbox and received the Mr. and Mrs. invitation you sent. Healing and moving on was distance from my mind, just as fast as me driving 105 with a panic attack, knowing that I was a filler and the place in your heart I thought I had wasn't there. I jumped off the cliff into your pool of love, missed and found myself on the rocks, battered and bruised, gained from the war going on within my mind. So I put on a Band-Aid and rushed myself to the doctor to only find out it was just a paper cut. You weren't the end of my world, but an empty house I claimed and wasn't mine. You're just paper that my words spilled on instead of my coffee. A boy like you wasn't ready to be the diary I needed. You found a different author to begin your story with, which made me realize my voice was enough, and my words need not to be hidden. I never needed that Band-Aid. You were just a paper cut I would learn from, so small. Now careful to not share my heart with just any old paper, but a journal that had strength to hold my ink and pages to contain my repeated stories. I became what you never were, a book of wonders. So sorry, Mr. Papercut. I know you were hoping to have room on my skin, but it pulled itself together and grew stronger.
I like to point out that it's interesting that she used a lot of the same words that I used in the first two poems I ever read in this final poem that she read, falling, tripping, sliding.
That's beautiful. That's synchronistic. It means magic is happening. Anyone else want to read? All right, cool. What's your name?
Justin.
Justin. Welcome, Justin.
Yeah, so as Olivia mentioned earlier, I'm the art director for Silver Needle Press, and I produce poems as byproducts. I'm not very productive, but I'm writing a graphic novel right now, and that occasionally teases some things out. So this one's called The Mountains Have Changed Them. When earthworms sprout from wet ground, he is perched, flightless on the edge of grocery store parking lots, facing the dirt. He surfaces new life between black teeth, wriggling in pink. He shares with me, ribcage to dust between mortar and pestle, head like a shovel. Thank you.
It's amazing. Okay, anyone else want to read poetry? We have some newcomers here. You want to read some poetry?
I've got a poem I wrote for them. Why don't you do that? That'd be great.
Okay, cool. We have another poem from Tina.
I wrote this for them. I said, come, and they wrote and said, we're hung up in Brentwood. So, do you guys mind? It's a Van Morrison infused. At the least, doing the work for Poetry on Demand generates. Editing comes later, but this one was fun to write. We held a staging of love poetry. Love Love Poetry on Demand for the second year. And, sometimes people come to you and they want to tell you their love story, and, they just want to express their love. And sometimes the stories are pretty decent. And the title ends in the word think. And I love old hippies, by the way. They teach me a lot about the music I love. As Van Morrison's inarticulate speech of the heart plays, I think, I look for the music, the way it laces leather like a father who played football, the way it lingers long after the perfume has been discontinued, the way we said goodbye to the German restaurant downtown last Friday, the way to make the mixtape last like Van Morrison moving between us as we danced the floor, that somehow the floor where you stood and flipped burgers for our sons, silly in their flipped eyelids, fingers wiggling into faces. Funny how 30 years can feel like the first time, a time that's somehow a tunnel underneath 3 stories of stories. Just the time I knocked on the river's door, the time I offered a stack of old exams and a fresh stick of gum before your final test so you'd pass the test, so I'd pass the test, so you would come to ask, what is the law, if not what there is no need to say, except the magic and the music we chase all over Nashville, every city in the world. And if Van the man cannot say it for me, there's some 16-year-old who looks like Buddy Holly or Howlin' Wolf telling me I'm your backdoor man, soda jerk, newswire, mixed up curled hair black into white, something in the soil chewed and spun, something that strikes me the way you struck me, the way you looked across the table from me in that restaurant that used to be in Midtown, sitting elegant in black jumpsuit, my heart jumping, but I wouldn't have let you know that, and somehow remember it as the cattle roam before us, white as a page, ready to hear our story, their black eyes, shoes, noses, your name, and every time a first time. And as I told the woman in the Italian restaurant today, the same as hundreds of years ago, and to come in circles, like the circles of the cassette of Van Morrison that lived 3 decades, like all the letters after my name, degrees of affection, the words to say after we leave the earth. Be here now. Love, be our inarticulate, you, the muse, I, the memory, the record saying, I'd replay the I do every day. I'd write you the same every time.
That was amazing. Is anyone else about to cry? I had chills. That was so amazing. All right. Do y'all want me to read? You want to go for it? Yeah, go. Olivia.
This is my love letter to John Berryman, and it felt wrong not to read it in a room full of poets who probably know and appreciate his work as well. Every mailbox in my neighborhood looks the same. I take a hoe to the earth, lipping up chunks of soil around the post. We've decided to plant hydrangeas, or maybe vervain, something bright. 1 bag of mulch should do it. Yes, their once infinite line of soil interrupted by flush of pine, ringing my mailbox like an ivory beacon to beat back the wailing domesticity. Across the street, Henry's blue birthday balloon dangles, limp and lifeless. Ounce by ounce, helium steals away like a thief in the night, but the chromatic gleam still catches my eye. One day Henry will grow big, and I'm worried he'll see the outline of Mr. Bones in the soil.
Thank you so much. Again, your imagery, so good. Metaphors. I'm going to find one that is lightweight, that is not going to be sad. This is one I wrote in around Halloween time. It's not really appropriate, but I'm going to read it. Of masks and colors. What is Halloween anymore? It's August and a gray morning. The flowers are shrinking from the light. I can feel it in the air. Halloween is coming, Christmas and Thanksgiving for that matter. A darkness, death to this abundant green blooming now around us. Sweetness walks down the street, sits in chairs and cars, listening to music thumping, thump across the street, up and down the street, honking at people if they like. Insanity walks down the street. The random alcoholic or whatever he or she is on. So rare though. Rare is the young man who rolls around his mom in her wheelchair with her lovely face and wild hair. I nod from our garden as we water and work. White specimens of 3 or 4 white neighbors in a black neighborhood. It is sweet and safe, humbling and loved here, as if it would be anything else. Some of us are broken here, no longer able to hide our wounds, mask the pain behind whatever is going on elsewhere. Masks pain in other seemingly safer neighborhoods. I'm not a judge. I see sweetness and I call it out as love. I see brokenness that is open and real and unashamed, and I wave and wave and wave, and most folks wave back, good morning. Some folks don't, and that's their business. Group hug, I say. If I could, I would somehow. Bring the pain of all the colors, all the people together. Find some way to heal it, dance it out somehow. Tribally, humanly, funk out. But it's not my place, I suppose, to lead any dances. Only to suggest the dancing. My body aches and my heart. My own colors need to see that sense of healing through. To wet this death in the air, get it out of my soul somehow, to love, live beautifully, passionately, and ready my mask for Halloween, for the sweetness to return, for the mask to come off, ultimately, from us all. All right, still an open mic. Anybody want to read? Looking at you, looking at you. Henry, thank you.
That was perfect. The mic master. I travel a lot, and wherever I go, I try to vibe with like a certain historical place or city, neighborhoods, because I'm just trying to get a feel, and I love talking to people. I'll just go up and talk to people on the street. My family says, don't talk to them, you know. But how else are you going to get to know people? Well, there was a place that I heard about, and someone invited me, and it was a slave cemetery. And this group said, you should come and help us clean up the slave cemetery. We've been doing this for years. And I was like, a slave cemetery? I've never seen a slave cemetery. And so I was curious what it would look like and all that. I mean, I had all these visions in my head because I've been to historical sites and all that. So there I was at the Rock Castle Slave Cemetery listening to this group. There's some churches, various Christian churches in Baha'i, and they've been doing this for years. And it was positioned between homes. You go into a neighborhood, and if you can imagine, there's your house, your neighbor's house, and right between your homes was this cemetery. And in that cemetery were these small, some were stones, some were actual headstones. And one thing that I write a lot and I paint a lot about healing and the redemption qualities. And the main thing, if I spoke with an alien from another planet, I'd say, well, we can be summed up based on how we treat the living and how we treat the dead. Because we all want to solve all these social issues and all that. And I have to tell you that before I read the poem. But as I looked at that slave cemetery, I thought to myself two things. One, who dug the graves of these people? And then two, why were they forgotten? Because if I showed you a photo where this cemetery was in this community, it was a cul-de-sac, there was no way you could have built these various rather nice homes and not notice this cemetery, regardless of who was buried down there. And I thought it was pretty odd. But then these groups, and it was like their 15th year, I mean, they've been doing it for many years. They found it, there were others around the city, and they were dedicated to cleaning. And as I walk through that cemetery, I get all these, I'm kind of spooky. I've had dead people, I've sensed my mother, I've sensed my father, we're not smokers, I've smelled his cigar smell in our home and all that. My mother's perfume walking through the house, I'm like, hey, how you doing? You know, yeah, we're doing fine. And as I walked through that cemetery, I mean, I just felt all of these strange vibrations and sensations. Didn't know these people. Some were just stones. And historically, when people are buried, even in other countries, you know, there might be a tree planted or a stone, but there's still that memories. And I think I was just feeling those memories of those spirits and also the people that were there, because no one really knew these people. But they did have a roster of someone did a historical marker of the past, and it was, I can't remember that, it's with the state. But it's a big project to find out more. But we know throughout history, whether it's through war or wherever, sometimes people are thrown in mass graves and forgotten. So, as I said earlier about part of our humanity is how we treat life and how we treat death. I thought it was significant. In the past, you had some documentation of those people, and some were just first names and memory. And then now, part of that healing element. I mean, this is a very multicultural group of people. And I said, wow, it's not what we say, I'm not racist, I'm not this, it's what we do. Because when we are dedicated to something and what we do to really solve our problems in this country, that's what really benefits. It's easy to say, I'm not this, I got a black friend, I got a white friend. That means nothing. It really doesn't. It's what we do. So this poem came from that first day, because you ever get those tingles, whether you're in church or a lover? Imagine you're working in your yard, and right now I'm feeling a tingle. I just felt tingling all throughout my body. And after that cleanup day, I wrote this poem. It's called We Walk Amongst the Past. Now they cleaned up everything, they planted flowers at the various graves. So, we walk amongst the fallen dry leaves and strong twisting vines, hiding headstones of weary souls that echo within these graves, some unmarked but remembered by teary, grieving eyes, countless flesh and bones now resting, broken and beaten slaves. Ancestors reach and embrace them, clinging to everyone who dies. Tall old trees reach for the sky, stand as markers for this special place. A field of silence, a death amongst the pain and days of long ago. Wind blows, tumbles autumn leaves, sending gentle prayers of grace. Unfamiliar healing hands dig deeply to plant spring flowers to grow. They rake broken leaves and branches, so much history to reveal. Forgotten lies emerge. We search for truth and look to the night for signs, to find our trail of tears, to water the flowers, soothe the pain, begin to heal. Thank you.
To play with the mic again. Thank you so much. That was very powerful. All right, anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Karen and Steve, for hosting us. And yes, it's a beautiful space. And the next one will be on June 28th, and the feature is Jennifer Sarcosta. But thank you all so much for coming. It's a beautiful thing that you're here, and I appreciate it. And have a wonderful day. Time for a group photo.